OPPO Studios.
So as a producer, my difficulty phase will be trying to bring the team together. Everyone in this team is new to each other, so we will have to try to know everybody's strength before I can even plan out anything. As my producer, my job will be to plan tasks and schedule it to everyone. So I have to know everybody's strength and weaknesses so that I can plan out the perfect schedule for everyone and make sure that they can accomplish them on time. In order to plan out the best schedule for everyone, the whole team help a little on the scheduling so that they know their own limits and their own strength, like how much they can do. So as they help me to go through every different stages, and example, while planning the first phase, the artist will say how much they can do. I'll give a longer time, like 2 weeks for the task to be done, but what I had in mind for them was actually 1 week to finish the task that is given, but the 2 weeks is to plan for extra time so that we can polish up more. Another task for the producer will be to instruct the team what to do and check on them regularly, make sure they are on time and make sure that their task is done like progressively. So, and for the art side, me as a producer also need to check their quality of art and the style of the art to make sure that they don't clash.
The main question for designers in our team is that how do we make use of the free rein that Michael Gary has given us? What should we do to make our group unique from the other group?
Angelio was initially supposed to be an RPG game. However, we decided to change to a platformer after some feedback from a lecturer that the RPG game would require too much work for the amount of time we were given. In the early stages of game design, we intended for the player character to have access to many spells to assist in his gameplay. However, later, due to issues with the game interface, we had to change these features into weapons instead of spells. Angelio's story is about angels and demons. However, before I started the story, I had to research about other games that use similar story elements, such as Diablo. While writing the story, I had to design the various character names, and in order to do so, I had to research from stories with similar elements of demons and angels, with which I used the internet to search for names to use that would fit our story well. The character of Angelio was initially based that Angelio would be a fallen angel. However, during the creation of the story, I decided to make it so that he was framed to be a fallen angel instead, and that he must travel through hell to return to heaven to redeem himself.
Our level will be held in jail, and the level design is done by me. And since our game is a platform game, I had to design where the tracks will be and how the environment will be like. And hence, our communication with the artists, and such as myself and Cynthia and Jereld, is a big role for me, as I have to convey the designing aspect of the level. One of the main problems with level design is that the collision for the platforms are always changing whenever the character changes from a rolling state to a running state. And the collision, as well as combined with the traps and the knockback, makes the placement of the traps and the platform height and distance a major issue to tweak around for the game. Game balancing was another difficult issue to handle, as the number of damage the weapon does to do differs for all three weapons. There's the bow, sword and stuff. And the attack speed, the range, and the knockback, especially the knockback, had to be balanced out, and that took some time and quite a lot of testing in the game for it to be completed.
After brainstorming, we actually got an idea how a game will be like. So we went on researching. We had our character as an angel-like, so we moved on to draw art concept for Angelio. Before exporting it to Unity, we actually had a test of animation trying to see if the Maya file works in Unity. So we actually faced a problem after getting the placeholder. We realized that Unity actually only takes in meters, but then I had my placeholder rigged and animated in centimeters. So the problem phase is what we need to do is to upscale the character to meter. So after changing the settings to meters, the character is actually distorted. So what I need to do is to re-rig the whole thing, repaint the whole thing, and re-animate it.
I'm one of the artists for the Angelio game. So as an artist, my role in this game is to create weapons and also to create the traps. I'm also in charge of any sound that is in the game Angelio. When I first started knowing the traps, first of all I will be researching on what sort of traps can be found in the Jereld team, and also search for similar games such as Damien Ang as to what traps they use. Where I was modeling the traps themselves, I encountered quite a few problems, such as maybe the pendulum blade or the spikes being extremely, or in my own opinion, like quite bland. So I created quite a few different gradations for both the pendulum traps and the spike traps. But for the pendulum traps, in my opinion, it was still looking too bland, and the only one that I actually liked had too high a polygon count. And after a while, thanks to Jereld help in reducing the polygon count, we managed to implement the pendulum trap into the game. For the spike trap, another problem would be, it's just a spike, so I have no idea how I can make it look nicer and not just like a simple cone-shaped spike. So from some of my team members gave me some suggestions to change, instead of using spike, we'll be using spears. So thanks to them, I realized that I decided to change the strap to the spear trap instead, which looks nicer. I was also a designer and modeler for the weapons. So initially when we created the first basic weapons, we were thinking of creating weapons based on actual history, such as like the Muramasa, which is a legend, like it's a cursed sword, or like from shows such as Harry Potter, Gandalf stuff. I didn't encounter much problem when designing these weapons. The only main problem, the biggest problem would be that I would guess is the textures, because I'm not very good at texturing. So I had to research, find tutorials for the game, and add it into the weapons. When I started doing sounds, initially I was thinking that it would be extremely easy, or rather quite easy. But after I started beginning to do it, I still thought it was easy, but it was only when implementing into the game that I realized that it was actually freaking hard. Boo! The reason why it was hard implementing is because although the sounds sounded quite nice alone, after being implemented into the game, it sort of didn't match with each other. And also there were some problems with implementing sounds for like the 3D sounds. For some reason, no matter how much I amplify the sound in Audacity, it still couldn't be heard much in Unity. So in the end, I found a problem to that, which is there was a graph, and the graph was curved downwards, so it could barely be heard. so I have to mess around with the Unity graphs and try here and there, mess around. And in the end, I finally made it work actually.
I was also in charge of the environmental props of the game, and one of the problems with doing the props for our level, which is a jail, is that researching on jails always have the same result, and they are quite stale, having just bars and alarms, jail cells everywhere. So I have to make use of the hell theme, which gave me more ideas for the jail, having like lava around and fire effects around, and this made the modeling, having ideas for the props a lot easier. One of my biggest background model is the castle, which you can find in the background of the game. Initially, I had to go research on the layouts and blueprints of existing castle and see how they are actually built upon. And from that, I drew a sketch and had to model each tower, each wall individually, and combine them to create a castle on its own.
After getting the placeholder of Angelio, we need to move on to the actual Angelio. But then I got stuck at creating Angelio for quite some time, so I decided to move on to creating the glue first. For the glue, I actually had to do the texturing, and then this time it's not like the placeholder. I need to unwrap the whole glue, and that took me quite some time, as a glue has a lot of teeth, so I need to actually open up his mouth and then cut out the UV edges and then texture it. So for the beginning part, I actually use something which I'm not familiar with, which is the IK handle at the leg. And after that, I realized that I made a wrong decision, as I don't really know how to control. I finally had an idea that adding on blindfold to Angelio and then also a helmet to make it have a more prime feeling. So for this time, the texturing was more tougher than the glues. As glue 80% is just the skin color, then it's just mixing and matching. Angelio's UV unwrapping will be more tougher than glue, as it is like a shirt, and then I need to make the whole texture to be aligned properly so that when it covers up the model, it will look more natural and seamless. Basically, I exported all the models from Maya to FBX file, so that when the file is in Unity, I will have to do the split animation, as I did all the animation in one whole file and then exported it to Unity. And what I need to do for the programmer is to split out what frame to what frame is the animation for the character itself. Game user interface, there's actually 3 versions to it. Basically from the alpha as a already drafted GUI created by my lead programmer. So during the beta, I actually got Stony-like UI for the whole game, which I feel that is not really that good for the game. So during the final Go release, I changed the GUI to a more simple and clean style, as previously in beta we used buttons, circle buttons, which created quite a few troubles for us, as there's always white edges around the images, which I think is the alpha isn't that clear enough. So during for the newest GUI, I made it all clean by getting less rounding edges so that the pixel won't be that much. It actually has 3 different logos that I created. The very first one is just a very cute light logo, and then further on I created a new wings for the whole Angelio team, and that was the font for it was rather not suited, so I changed it again. So now everything looks more clean more serious, which will suit the whole game perfectly.
After implement all the basic movement of the player, and implement the animation in. So it's my first time implementing animation into Unity, so a little research will be done on how to implement animation into Unity. So every model I receive will start with like a T-pose. So I have to implement the movement into the T-pose model first, and it moves in the T-pose form. So slowly I will implement one by one, then put the running animation in, jumping animation, or the rolling animation. Then have to test it out, and the blending of different animation is very hard to adjust, but as long as you put in more time on it, the animation will look nice. Harder component of the project, I have to implement the AI into the project. So the first AI implemented was the monster, the ghoul. So I have to make the ghoul react only when the player is near and it stays stationary on the spot. And for it to attack, I have to play the animation when the player is near, and the distance will be adjusted accordingly according to the animation feed length.
Angelio, I started on programming the coin collection and player depth for the game. It was a rather easy task, however, as I was first starting on Unity, I had some difficulty. I had to refer to a few online tutorials on help with programming them, with implementing those features. I also worked on the Hellfire GUI for the game, and initially it was a bar UI. However, halfway through the game's development, I was asked to make a more spherical UI for the health bar. However, as I was using the same code for my health bar UI for the sphere UI, it was difficult to change it to work more efficiently as a sphere, and I had to tweak it such that it would work as intended. However, there was some drawbacks to it.
The second AI I have to implement in the game will be the boss AI. It is a much harder AI than the ghoul, because I have to random all the different, like how it attacks. Like, so the boss first, we planned that the boss have 3 different attacks, so I had to random the different attack so that the boss, like, let the boss know which attack to use for that period of time. To prevent him to always random the same, I have to have some code to fix certain attack, like maybe more front attack, so that the player can kill the boss faster and make the game play faster, so the player will not get bored. So to make the ghoul AI even more complex, I had to implement talking into the game. The plan was when the player jump over the ghoul, instead of attacking the ghoul and killing, the ghoul will turn and chase the player. After every ghoul, so there will be a lead ghoul chasing the player, and every other ghoul will start following the leader. And while he's chasing the player, there are also obstacles in the game, so I also have to code in some conditions for the ghoul to know when to jump over certain obstacles and try to go over certain obstacles. And when the ghoul get in front of the player, the ghoul will be able to turn back and hit the player. After all the AI and movement of the game, all the simple features, I have to make the game nicer by implementing the GUI. So I had to work closely with my artist to complete this task. So for the GUI, I had to add some positions, like trying to place the GUI in the perfect place, and trying to, like, every GUI I have to have code in a way that the GUI can fit in all different screens. So actually GUI is one of the toughest tasks in the project.
Our game was initially supposed to be like another RPG game, Bunny Rush, which we drew inspiration from in order to start the development. The next task I was assigned to work for in programming was the player's physics such as knockback, acceleration and deceleration. When I started working on it, I did not really know where to start on, and thus once again had to refer to tutorials online. However, it was difficult to find tutorials that could be applied to our game, and thus I decided to look closer at the player movement code and modify the values from there. When I implemented the knockback, initially there were many bugs, such as after getting knocked back, the player would start walking backwards. However, I then fixed these bugs. I was then asked to work on the networking of the game. I started by working on the menu of the networking script, and they were very difficult to start on as the reference material available online was very complicated and it was difficult for me to understand at first. I had to read through the material a couple of times before I could start the actual coding. When I started coding the menu for the network, the code would have many errors and I had to refer online to solve some of those errors. Eventually I managed to compile all the code for the networking and send it for compilation to the game. I then started the working on the networking for the actual game, which was in this case the endless mode. When I started, the first task I was asked to do was to spawn the player. There were many bugs while I was trying many solutions to spawn the player, and sometimes some solutions would seem to work. However, after testing the solution a few times, I realized that it was not actually working the way it should, and I had to try another solution. And I managed to finally spawn the player. It was all spawned into one spawn point, and I had to change it to spawn into multiple spawn points. So in the end, the networking for the game was not very successful as there were many bugs I encountered and some of the bugs were difficult to fix. There was also code that I tried to implement from online sources that did not work as intended, and I could not figure out how to make them properly work in our game.